And here, oh, come on. Okay. So it seems to be working on Instagram, and we should be also on YouTube.
Shall we try also to stream on our channels?
Yes, you can try.
Okay.
So for the public, if you are listening, we're still doing some tests on how to broadcast our conference. Oh. So at the stage.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I needed to. You hear me? It's fine?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we hear you. So, Roma, everything's good? Okay, cool. We're waiting 2 minutes and then we will start the conference. So, hi. Yes, it's always the awkward moment before the conference when we try to stream. Yes. We can talk? Yes.
Trying to do that, but
That's the same.
Oh, Donatella went black. Those are the incognitos of the direct on Facebook, Instagram, and so on.
she's probably will be back.
Yeah. Okay, in 2 minutes. Up.
Okay.
Cool.
Good.
Can we start? So, well, we have 2 minutes to go, but yeah. So, well, if we start to do things, we start to conversate, and we want to keep that for our public. So everything is good. I have some images of your books as well. I will present your books as well on the right side of.
Cool. Yeah, I also brought some books, but
Oh,
you never
cool.
know.
You can
Just in
actually
case.
share your screen if you want.
Well, I do the old way, like this.
Yeah, that's a good. So 1 minute to go. Yes, we can start.
Yes, you are.
Let's go. So thank you everyone to be following this new year and first conference at Confluence 2025. I'm David Knecht, the founder of Hikaya. Before starting our collaboration, we will be talking about I will present Hikaya a little bit and the conference, and then I will let Donatella and Francesco have their conversation about this amazing thing that is future fiction and Francesco Verso's books. So, first of all, Hikaya is a publishing house based in France. Our goal is to promote non-Anglo-Saxon sci-fi and fantasy writers, mainly because we saw that we will discuss why with Francesco as well. We have so many Anglo-Saxon writers, and we wanted to give the opportunity to other countries, to other writers to be translated into French and also to create a network. So to do so, we publish, but we also organize conferences. We also go conferences in universities, schools, and especially Confluence. Confluence is our flagship event. It's once a year. It's during a month. We give the time to speak to writers, editors, translators, people knowing and working in the field of science fiction and fantasy all around the world. This year, we will go from Italy to Palestine to Iran, passing through China and Brazil. So we have a lot of writers, of editors, of people working in the field. And why Confluence? Confluence is the name of a neighborhood in Lyon where we are based, and it's where the Saône meets the Rhône, the two rivers of the city. And we thought it was a funny name for a festival, because it's also the new neighborhood in Lyon that looks forward. So it's a meeting of two rivers, and also a neighborhood that is kind of futuristic. So Donatella is one of the translators of Francesco into French. I worked with Donatella, and there is another translator into French. We worked on Bloodbuster, and the other translator into French worked on I Camminatori, Les Itinérants, that you can find on Mnemos, right?
Oh yeah, Stéphane Lambadaris.
Yes, I forgot his name. We would have liked to have him as well on the conference, but he was busy, so
He's in China. Yeah, it's pretty late this time.
Yeah. So I hope he will be following the conference on distance. So I will let Donatella start her interview.
Okay. Thank you so much, Davide, for having us for this conference, for Confluence. As you said, I met Davide because we translated together Francesco's novel Bloodbusters from Italian into French. So it was really interesting for me because it was my first literary translation, and I enjoyed it so much. I learned so much in the process, and I look forward to other processes, to other future literary translations. But today we're here to have a chat with the creator of Bloodbusters. So first of all, just to know a bit each other, if you were a robot, which one would you be and why?
Right. Okay. So that's a very straightforward question, and let me just thank the host, Davide, which I know, I think, for 3 years now, and we met here and there in some conventions. I guess the WorldCon, I guess in touring, maybe. Yes, right. And thank you, Donatella, for the wonderful work you did on the novel. We'll have to talk about that. So to answer your question, I would be Wall-E from the movie, because in a way it has some parallel with my life. He was doing something completely, in a way, useless, packing rubbish, garbage. And then when he found Eve, he found a mission. He found something bigger, something more relevant and important. And he discovered a very bad situation that happened to humans, which in a way resembles what I was doing. I was working in a multinational company. I wasn't happy. But when I discovered science fiction, I found my mission. And in the same way as Wall-E, I found out that there's a big problem with humans in science fiction. And we'll talk about more about that. So that's my choice.
Not bad. I remember I watched it a long time ago, but actually,
Yes.
yeah, maybe I will rewatch the film now that you talked about it. Yeah, very nice, very nice character, very powerful story. And just before talking about future fiction and your activity, I wanted to know what is or what are the films or novels that inspire you as a writer.
Yeah, let's say that I discovered science fiction when I was around 22 in Amsterdam, where I was the first Erasmus student. It was 1993. Back in the days, it was just the beginning of the wonderful program of exchange, again, students across Europe. And I found a guy that had a lot of books in the cellar of his bookstore. And the books that really stick with me for a very long time were, of course, Dune and by Frank Herbert, and Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson, and Neuromancer by William Gibson. So you can say that I am a son of cyberpunk. And when it comes to movies, it strikes me very much an old movie. Maybe you're not aware of that, but it's called Strange Days by Catherine Bigelow. It's also very cyberpunk. And also more modern stuff. I really love the Black Mirror series, the first 2 seasons. And I really love movies like Hair, or movies like Inception, for example. So that's the kind of science fiction that really, in a way, affected me and gave me a direction first into sort of cyberpunk, and then moving on to solar punk in the last 10 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of works. I know some of them, not all of them, but yeah, very interesting. And how actually would you define the cyberpunk, this concept?
Well, cyberpunk is a struggle to fight against big powers with the tools given by information technology. So, meaning there's a geek, a nerd, or someone which is considered an hacker that is fighting against a big power, namely the mafia guys, big corporation, this sort of very specific kind of enemies. And so there is this fight to try to save yourself from this big dark power. It's about, a fight where someone like David, in the sense of with a low power and often an outcast, fights against Goliath, a very powerful enemy, and in this fight there is some sort of solution which is often not positive. Okay, it's often cynical, nihilistic, a sort of pessimistic and dystopic.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. I also wanted to ask you another question. Maybe it's the right moment to ask you. What makes a good science fiction novel, according to you? I don't know if you partly maybe answered that question while explaining the cyberpunk, but maybe generally, what makes a good SF novel, according to you?
Yeah, indeed. It's of course, I will give my personal set of choices. Let's say that the kind of science fiction that I like is about questioning reality. So it means finding something relevant for the times that we are living that could interest a wide, population of people. Not everybody, but something which is fundamental, something that touches upon whether it's a social or individual or psychological or even cosmological issue. It's not easy, but I think that's the relevance of science fiction, because it has the power to pose a very interesting question: what would happen if? And that means that these hypotheses has the power to restructure, or in a way make reality crumble. My definition of science fiction is what makes reality obsolete from a social, political, technological point of view. And that means that good science fiction stories for me are not about, new theory on physics or astronomy or chemistry, but is about imagining what could influence society or individuals at any level. For example, from a political point of view, from an economical point of view, from a philosophical point of view, from an environmental point of view. So all these major issues must be not all together, but that's what I want to read. I want to read someone that has a vision of the future, which is consistent, which is plausible, which at her or his standards could happen. So in a way, I work on the contrary of what is the normal kind of science fiction, meaning the suspension of disbelief. So I suspend my beliefs, the things I believe in, the things I trust and I have faith in, like physics or chemistry or politics, and I have to enjoy a story. No, I want to go the other way around. I want the writer to make me believe her or his theories, her or his world. And if the story is good, then I fall into that trap. But I don't have to suspend my disbelief. I have to really believe in those things. That means that it needs to build a logical and plausible kind of explanation for the story itself, or for the novum, let's say, for the science fiction element that drives the story.
Yeah, so it's the power of science fiction to, yes, telefiction with scientific technological elements in it that could be real. And so this pushes the boundaries of what we do, what we believe in, what can be changed.
Yeah.
Are we doing right the things we are doing now?
It doesn't need to be technical, okay? It doesn't need to be scientific in the hard sciences. It could be very much soft stuff like sociology, anthropology, cultural theories, and stuff like that, okay? But it must be fresh, must be innovative.
Now, moving to to your activity as a writer and publisher, I wanted to start from actually Italy, the Italian panorama. So you have a publishing house, Future Fiction. You're also a writer, so you have this double casquette, that we say in French. You have this double role, double work. I wanted to know if you could describe, first of all, the Italian science fiction panorama, both as a writer and as a publisher, and the relationship to translation into other languages. And secondly, if you could describe your position as a writer and publisher in this panorama.
All right, and that's a very big question.
Yeah, that's a very long question. I will try maybe to,
yeah. Okay.
to say it again later.
Okay. I will not take the full responsibility for all the things that I will say, but let me just point out some elements. Of course, I belong to the science fiction community of Italy since at least 20 years. I saw, of course, a scenario from around 2002 and 2003. I started to move my first steps into this genre. Of course, I learned something from the past, thanks to some very influential people that helped me, like Nico Gallo or Daniele Brolli, for example. Those are important figures in my growth. I can say that the situation is slightly better than when I start my say career in this field. When I started, the situation was complicated in the sense that science fiction was under the heel of fantasy, and the fantasy and dystopia was were together, kind of suffocating completely the field. So it was very small, and we were just a bunch of people enthusiastic about these and didn't want to, give up on science fiction. There weren't many publishers. They all were switching to fantasy. They all were switching to weird or other, speculative fiction, as then became the genre. Now the situation is a bit better, thanks to I think new voices and new small presses that are trying to bring quality into this field, which has been mostly dominated by commercial science fiction, and that means, big publishing houses that are just following the major trends, which is coming from outside. So let's say that Italian science fiction had very difficult time in finding its own voice, which is a general problem. We will probably talk more about that, which is related to the cultural hegemony of the Anglo-Saxon science fiction and the American science fiction, which is barely in limiting our ability to grow as authors, because there's not much room. There are, of course, important voices, like Valerio Evangelisti, that passed away some years ago, unfortunately, and he was also translated into French, and he was a very big figure in Italian science fiction and also crime and mystery. He's a all-around writer. But when it comes to important voices, there's of course Nicoletta Vallorani, there are Dario Tonani and Giovanni De Matteo. They are new, not new compared to the, of course, a previous generation, like Lino Aldani, for example. But let's say that it's hard. I have to say that it's not easy because Italy, anyway, is a small country, and Italian language is a small language now, with a big past but with a small present, and maybe a very ambiguous future. My position in this field is, how can I say? I wanted to change stuff. I wanted to change a lot of stuff which I didn't really like. So the fact that I've opened up Future Fiction is due to these very limited chances that we have to propose something different. Very long time to wait, very long processes to be published. And so I couldn't wait, because I had a lot to say, a lot to do, a lot to bring together. And so I have, in a way, gave my contribution, especially in enlarging the products, the books that are available in Italian, bringing, for example, Chinese science fiction, African science fiction, American, from Latin America, from many different cultures. And when it came to my own position, I started, of course, winning a couple of times the Urania Award, which is the most important science fiction award. And Urania is the major series where everybody wants to be published, because it's by Mondadori, so it's distributed in now around, I think, 15,000 newspaper stands. When you win the Urania Award, you are publishing around 5,000, 7,000 copies. You have a professional contract, and that's a very good way to start your career. But then it has a 1 month circulation span, so it's not enough. At least it was not enough for me, because I am now from 10 years professional writer, so I needed more to build up this career. So I don't know, yeah, because the question is quite
The question was big.
big, and I don't want to take too much time. You want to know about translation? Well, the translation is a major issue everywhere. And what I found out and what started this project is that in most of the countries, and Italy is not an exception, everybody translates from English. And I was very tired and fed up of the situation. And I didn't want to just complain and point fingers, but I wanted to change stuff. And I did it with the work that I did in this now almost 12 years.
On
When
this
it
point,
comes,
if I may, why do you think actually it's important to have other voices rather than the Anglo-Saxon writers, the English literature? Why is it so important to you?
And I have a question. Why do we have so many English Anglo-Saxon writers as well?
okay, okay,
That-
okay.
But
I'll go. I'll
Question
go first.
complexifies.
I'll go first with the answer to Davide because it gives me, a hook
Yeah.
to then answer your Donatella. Well, let's say cultures are coming and going. Italian had, or at least Latin had the time, during the Middle Ages, and we still use Italian for classic music, for dance, for theater, and it's kind of connected to the experiences that culture can make available for a wide range of populations. The same goes for French. It was the language of diplomacy, was the language of culture, and it was the language of art. But now is the time of English because we live in a technological era where devices and software and programs and this sort of IT technology, information technology culture shapes our life. And with these devices comes the language to interpret them, to use them. And so because, of course, of the development of these major countries like the US and the UK, those narratives from the golden age of science fiction were then very easily translated into all the other languages because they had something new and fresh and relevant to tell to other countries when there was a gap, a technological gap in the access to these technologies. That was true up to some years ago. In 2003, if I remember correctly, William Gibson said, the future is already here, but it's not evenly distributed. That captures exactly these things. This gap represents the power by which some countries can overflow, can really impose in some ways their narratives onto the others. But 20 years later, my friend Ian MacDonald said that when there's a new device coming out in the world, whether it's an iPhone or an electric car or a tablet, is exactly the same model from Tokyo to Paris to Rio de Janeiro to Los Angeles. That means that different cultures do different things with the same technology. So now there's not just the Silicon Valley that is exporting the innovation, but there's Shenzhen in China, there's Lagos in Nigeria, there's Sao Paulo in Brazil, there's Bangalore in India. So these major hubs of technology are reshaping our futures. So why is it important to tell the stories coming from these other places? Because, of course, if we all sit in the same lake and fish in the same place, taking always the same kind of fish, we can have fun, we can nurture ourselves, we can feed ourselves with those fishes. But if we want to catch the white whale, If you want to take the incredible creatures that populate the high sea, we need to go on the ocean. We need to take a ship, and the ship is a translator that knows that terra incognita, that knows those, mysterious lands, and it can bring back the content. So, because for many years, for at least a century, 100 years, as soon as very important book or film was produced, it was immediately translated into 10, 20, 30 languages. This process of colonization and occupying the imagination of others have created a very unfair situation, because these two countries have been getting money in terms of advances, in terms of royalties, in terms of skills, in terms of many attention, which is a very important resource now to them, and marginalize all the others. And this situation has created a very bad market for all the other countries. So I think it's important to recreate a sort of balance, because it's not true that only two countries, one language, one religion, one economy can provide the whole spectrum of our possible futures. We need more colors, we need more voices, we need more identities, we need more of diversity, real diversity, which comes from other countries, other languages, other traditions, other futures, in order to have a more representative idea of what is going on in this planet. So that's what I've been advocating for the last 10 years. What if we all speak one language? What if we all listen to one single song? What if we all watch one single movie? What if we all have one single food? The standardization and flattening, and of course sometimes dumbing down of reality, is one of the problems that we are going to face, especially with the development of AI. If this kind of AI is going to be run by one single company or two or three, we're going to have a major problem in terms of who is setting the standards of the algorithm, who is writing the content of these. So we need to be very careful, because we are on a very slippery slope at the moment.
Yeah, thank you for your quite long answer. That I think you explained it very well, the problem that the English domination in the market nowadays pose, because yes, diversity is important. The world is so big. There are so many different cultures, so many different languages, and it's a pity that we don't explore them so much, because lots of attention is put on the English market, and that's what you have been trying with future fiction, actually, with this. Yes, with this publishing house that tries to publish, well, not only Italian literature, your novels, but also not only yours, but also, of course, foreign fiction in other languages other than English, and that's also what Hikaya is doing right now in France. With their projects to again publish fiction in other languages. So that's your solution to this. To this.
Let me tell you that when it comes to Italian science fiction, that's the topic of our talk. If you ask anybody in the world if they ever read an Italian science fiction book, they will probably mention Italo Calvino, which is very borderline, and it was probably 40 years ago. So there is a very big problem, because we in Italy import a lot of science fiction, but we do not have the ability to export our stories, which is pretty much the same situation everywhere.
There is an imbalance.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I call this situation the white hole when it comes to the American market, which is from which everything gets out and nothing gets in, and the black hole, which is the rest of the world, where everything gets in and nothing gets out. There is a study by the Rochester University in the US that says that just 3% of what is published in the US comes from a translation. And in that translations are included all the languages of the world, 3%.
Yeah.
But
And I think
sorry, go on.
I have one thing to say. There's one thing that is really interesting to see is that sometimes the US and the Anglo-Saxon market says that this author is Chinese because he writes in English, but it's of Chinese descent, was born in the US, but the way they write, the way they think, the narratives are mostly American. Because, well, I'm not fan of the idea that the language shapes the way we see the word, but there is some truth to it. Like the way we think literature from our background shapes the way we see the word.
Okay.
The limits of my language are the limits of my word. I said
Yeah,
Wittgenstein said it. Yeah.
No, here you're touching upon another aspect, which is probably the most difficult and most complicated ones. Okay, so I have a lot of experience in this field. Okay, so it's not a problem of the translation, because even if you're translated into another language, you will not be very much considered. There is a deeper issue, and the deeper issue is that the American market, or some of the parts, also the English market, but it's about the publishers. They tend to apply a sort of standard. So that's what you were saying. Even though the author is from Asian origin or African origin, they need to comply to the standards of the so-called American reader, okay, which is a complete made up category. Nobody knows who is the American reader. Is it the sum of a Texan, I don't know, billionaire and Chicago homeless and housewife in New York? Is a mix of these, or what tags, what categories are inside this definition? So this is just a justification or a prejudice to say we need to produce something that is digestible, something that we can understand. So they're not, when they read or when they watch a movie or when they go abroad, they're not wanting to explore something different. They don't want to experience the alien, okay? They want to stay comfortably in their zone and then maybe, take a sip, take a step aside. So very few people are really readers that want to embrace another culture. Most of them, they go to another, city and still want to go to McDonald's. That means they take another book from a different translation and they point out to the issues or nuances of translation which they cannot capture, which they cannot understand. Some of the issues we had, for example, in the translating Italian slang into French, right? So if you really want to go out and find something new, you need to change your ears. You need to change your eyes. Otherwise, you can still, be comfortable in your area, in your cultural, bubble, and don't, you're not missing anything, right? But if you do miss it, it means that you need to make an extra effort to do something to understand that culture, because we have been, looking and reading stories happen in LA or San Francisco or New York, and we know everything about that, but we don't know nothing about other countries just because we've been accustomed to that, and we don't need an explanation for that. So that is the kind of effort that you need to do when you read something out of your comfort zone.
And what you say is very interesting because I'm doing a PhD right now. My topic is on translation and journalism, which is a topic that has not been really researched. It's a very small topic. Now it's gaining interest, but there have been works showing that actually, if we think about the news, the way news go from one country to another, again, it's unequal, right? Because you have news agencies that are deciding which news are newsworthy, which news
Yes.
can be interesting for the public,
Yes.
what the public wants to know.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
a circle, right? Because
Yes.
you think the public wants to hear certain things, so you provide the info. So
Yeah.
of course the public is going to remain there, and also and language plays a big role in that, because of course if you want to report what's happening somewhere in the world, you're going to need well, maybe you're using English because it's lingua franca, but in some countries maybe you cannot use English. You need to have a local translator, an interpreter, a fixer to collaborate with journalists over there to have access to this information, to have funds necessary to go there and have research. So I think these inequalities are also mirrored in modern journalism.
Basically,
But
is a power structure. It's a power
yes.
structure. So it's a power structure that it's been always like that. So my position is that I'm always on the side of the weakest. Okay, so it's what I like. Okay, so I try to change this power structure and have a better distribution of stories, a better representation of futures.
Moving on to the next questions, because the time is ticking. I wanted really to talk a bit more about the publishing process, since we've been talking about future fiction, your activity as a writer. How would you actually describe the publishing process, both as a publisher, as you are now, and as a writer? I'm asking this because when we were working on your novel, on Bloodbusters, what I really enjoyed as a translator was this exchange that was going on between me and Davide when we first started the translation, and then again a dialogue with the editor and the person in charge of the reviewing process, in order to understand together how to render certain ideas, certain concepts, certain linguistic elements. We'll come back to that later. So what I really enjoyed about that was this dialogue going on, which I think is different from the image of the solitary translator working alone in front of the computer. So I wanted to know if, as a publisher and writer, you also think there is this dialogue going on, if it's more of a solitary activity, and in general, as a publisher, how do you view and present your publishing process activity in future fiction, especially?
Well, let's say I run a very tiny publishing house. It's more like a cultural association. So the books are part of a bigger experience, which is related to conferences, teachings and presentations, and many kind of other activities that I do, from cultural synthesis to institutes, cultural institutes, and embassies, or many different institutions. But of course, being the core of this project related to the decolonization of the future, that means that we need to work on including languages that are being completely neglected up to the invisibility. And I had the ability, I have to say that I've been good in this, of creating a network of translators that are my antennas. They are my ears when it comes to scouting. So a big part of our work is related to finding who are the best authors in different cultures, in different countries. And if you go on the homepage of Future Fiction, you see an image of the world, and you see a lot of dots, red dots. They represent the origins of our authors and stories, which is a unique project now. We are the only one in the world to translate stories from 14 languages and 40 countries. That means that, being the only one, I feel rather lonely. So yes, it's a process that I do with now a number of editors across the world, editors in India, editors in Peru, editors in China, editors in many countries. Now I've been to Georgia, and I hope I'll do something from that region. That means that we work in cooperation with a local editor or a local author, and that is the starting point. I've seen that you have Zoa Kazimi on the program, and I met her in China in for the WorkCon in Chengdu, and in next week or 2 weeks we will publish her anthology in dual language, in Persian and Italian. So I worked with her, and I had to find a translator, which you can imagine is not easy from Persian to Italian, but I have many collaborations with universities in Italy, and that's where I find very, very precious resources in terms of wonderful teachers and willing to cooperate and give me some valuable translators, which do not have the same opportunities as the English partners. When you translate from Korean or from I don't know, Arabic, to say one, you don't have the same opportunities as when you translate from English. And so there is a discrimination also there, because the opportunities are not equally distributed. So that's the kind of process. We find an author, then we find a translator, and then they work together, because many times I'm not in the picture because I don't know Chinese, I don't know Japanese, and so I can just be a facilitator. But they work together, just like we did on one language that I knew, okay, Italian. And so I think it's a beautiful process, because it's really puts at the center the human relationship instead of a business relationship. That's always the thing that I say. We value the human relationship in publishing much more than the business relationship, also because we don't have much money, so there's nothing to say about that. Okay, we do culture. Yes.
But you have been able to publish this works thanks to your network, but as a publisher, do you also give some instructions on, I don't know, how the story should be translated for an Italian public, for your specific publishing house?
Well, you're talking about consultancies or stuff like that?
No, I mean, once you have found the work you want to translate to publish in future fiction, then the translator is doing the translator. Do you have a dialogue with the translator and the author to know how to, present the work for an Italian public?
Sure. But just to mention what I said before, I'm not following the markets. Okay, so I follow what I consider relevant, or what I consider something valuable, without thinking which category, which trend, which topic it's that book in. So I just try to guess if that would be interested for readers, but because I do not know all the readers, I don't take the percentage of these, if it's a romantasy or if it's fantasy, or if it's weird, or if it's bizarro, or if it's speculative, or whatever. I just think that we're talking about good stories about possible future topics. So when it comes to translation, I leave, of course, the translator maximum freedom, because, as I said, I want to be there. Okay, so I want to be in China. It's not that the Chinese should comply to the Italian standards. It's the other way around. We are traveling into another culture when we read a Chinese science fiction book. We are traveling to India. So we are in this other dimension. That means that we shouldn't be surrounded by Italian references, because they are not in reality. So it's not easy. but because of course when you read a book you cannot be completely out of the experience, but my experience should be very much closely related to traveling, and that means that you are exposed to, sounds, smells, music, food, design, architecture, history, art, and everything of that culture. That makes it relevant for me, and that makes that experience complete.
Yeah. So we come back to the translator being a boat, the trip. So yes, the adventure. You want the reading experience to be an adventure. That's very nice. And what you just said, I think, when in translation theory, lots of people, lots of researchers have thought about, how to deal with literary translation. And yes, these concepts about by Lawrence Venuti, we talk about them a lot. It's foreignizing and domesticating translation,
Yes.
Foreignizing, so you're more close to the
Yes.
original world, original culture, original
Yes.
language of the work, and then domesticating, you're doing the opposite. You want to integrate that into your culture to make it more similar, accessible to your public. So of course it's a difficult balance to find. And since we're talking about translation, actually, you yourself, you're one of the most translated Italian science fiction writers. So we wanted to know, first of all, how did you decide yourself to become SF writers? And then how many languages you are translated, and why did it happen? How did it happen?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's a beautiful question. Well, I think that reality is not enough. That's why I like to create other realities, to extrapolate possible trends, and to put my characters there. I mean, the future is the place where I will spend most of my time. And so it's a place that I want to inhabit. And I tend to project myself always in the near future. When it comes to science fiction, is really a sort of science fiction, as I said before, which is not technical. It's not art science fiction at all. It's like trying to add something or remove something from our reality and see how that works. I am convinced that we understand reality when we break it. So my sort of approach to reality in my books is break the current situation and see what makes it stand up. Okay, because when you break something, you realize what keeps it together, right? When you break a relationship, you understand what keeps it together. When you break any sort of object, you realize the forces that made it up. And so that's the process that I use when I create a story. What was the rest? That the translations, right? The translation.
In how many languages you're translated, and how did it happen?
Okay, so it was very hard, incredibly hard. Something
That's
that
your secret.
there's no. Well, the secret is that I have a white beard, and that I have spent 12 years in just doing one thing. I become obsessed with this, and I've been going on to places. I travel so many kilometers. I've been to so many countries, and remember that picture of Forrest Gump when he was running and running and running and never stopping, and then at some time he said, "Well, I feel a little bit tired now," and that means that it was an incredible adventure, but it was so hard, and it's still so hard. And there's this wall that you have to climb, and there are these prejudices that you have to face, and there's these answers that I was continuously hearing, like, "Oh, you have a book? Well, but we read just in English." And that's not just the US and the UK. That's everywhere in the world, because any editor that is from Germany or France or Spain or India or I don't know where, Mexico or whatever, Russia, they just read the book in English. So the problem is that the cost and the burden of the translation is on your shoulders, or there are very, very few publishing houses that invest on the translation. And when it comes to science fiction, that it's non-consistent. Okay, I would like to know how many French publishing houses are investing in an English translation. I would like to know how many German publishing houses are investing in a translation into English in order to get to the other markets, you know? So the situation is very hard. I did it by talking to people, convincing them of what I was doing, being there, being present, build up my readership from each and every one of them. I go to many conventions, many book fairs, and I've decided to go the long way. That means not having an agent, not going to big publishers. I even though maybe they wouldn't accept me because I'm a bit radical in this, and so I wouldn't accept many compromises. And so I decided to be small, indie, and that means that you need to convince the people to read your book. And you know the problem is that books are not brought by their content. Books are brought by their numbers. Okay, so the higher you go in terms of agents and publishing houses, the more they will ask for numbers, and they will not very much care about the content of the book, because there is this equation for them that more numbers equals more content, which is not the case. Many times we have bestsellers, well, we live under the rule of bestsellers, which are just nonsense, which is just a very, commercial event, which is completely not related to quality books. And so I had to actually convince them to give me a chance to at least read that book that was coming from Italian. But I have invested some of the money that was coming from the awards that I won early in my career, and I have to thank publicly many times Sally McCorry for being my English voice. She was the one that believed in the stories that I was writing, and helped me, charging me not too much to make the translations, and working side by side. So the experience that we had with you, Donatella, I did it with her in English, translating at least 3 novels. First, Livido on Next Human, and then Bloodbusters, and then The Roamers. She is behind all of these, making available the English edition, because from that English edition you can then go to others. And I have to say that many of the books that have been translated, for example, in Chinese or in Tamil, were translated from English, not from Italian. So I've been translated in Spanish, I've been translated in Portuguese, I've been translated in Tamil, in Russian, in Chinese, a couple of novels, in French now. Not all the times novels, but some novels, and sometimes some short stories. So it was very hard.
Okay, so perseverance, that is your secret.
Yes.
Perseverance paid off at the end.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Do you think it would be, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, go on.
Do you think that the main solution to this problem, which is a global problem to, I think, all the writers, would be to create a network of publishers that are interested in translating other languages, like you're doing, like we're doing, like other publishers maybe are interested in doing in other countries, like more than, going to already big publishers in the different countries?
Yeah, I mean, sure, that would be the solution. That's the solution I'm working on every single day now, but it's still very hard, because when it comes to other publishers, they're very, dependent on the costs. They're sometimes they're alive and then they close. They can't sustain their business, and so it's very complicated when the structure is very fragile, and so it's hard. But if there's someone that is interested in quality books, is of course small presses, and the way to address that could be having grants, having funds, having support by the institutions, because we're not doing commercial products, we're doing cultural products, which are very relevant. And in terms of preserving the biodiversity of the future, that is a concept that I have developed over the years. Just like in the Svalbard island in Norway, they are preserving the seeds from a possible environmental catastrophe so that we can replant them if an apocalyptic scenario should happen. What I was trying to do is gathering the stories from many languages and many cultures in view of a possible cultural catastrophe, which is the monofuture, which is one single future, one single language, one single religion, one single economy. And we're going very fast to that kind of scenario. So yes, we need resilience. We need forces that go in the opposite direction. And of course, a small resilient network of small presses that are exchanging names, exchanging authors, that are possibly cooperating. Maybe we are doing a project with Creative Europe now, with a French and German publisher and me, to try to get some money and promote European science fiction. There's a Eurocon coming on in Berlin next year, so I call everybody to attend that event, which is really important for the European community, especially in these times. So that's the way to go. But when I talk to Spanish publisher, they have problems. When I talk to French publisher, they have problems. There are problems, and they do not point to the solution. So I will continue, of course, to push, but I need help.
Okay, we're seeing now on the screen the image of Bloodbusters. So that's the Italian book that we've been translating with Davide. So I would like now to talk a bit more about it. So I wanted to know what is it about, very quickly, just to present it to the public, and where the idea for this novel came from, and how did you build the story, Bloodbusters?
Yeah, the story is about taxes paid in blood. So in Italy, we have the same, probably in other cultures as well, because taxes are a universal problem, that you want to take my blood. Okay, so we have this very deep, personal, intimate experience, right? Taxes are something that take away our blood, something so frustrating in a way, right? And so I built the whole book on this idea. What would happen if the state takes the taxes directly from our veins? On a deeper level, it means how much should the individual contribute to the welfare of the state? How much of his body should give in order to fulfill his social, let's say, debt? I remind you that during wartime, the state used to have the ability or the possibility to take sperm in order to make babies and make soldiers in times where many of the soldiers were dead, many of the male were dead. So those are extreme examples of biopolitics, okay? Biopolitics is a term that I really like, which means how the politics affects biology, affects life, affects the decisions that we should or should not take. For example, abortion is one of the biggest themes in biopolitics, right? So the idea of the book starts from this. The Ministry of, let's say, Revenues opens up these new offices called Bloodbusters, and they go around taking tax evaders. But what happens that one of these big bad guy, a bad guy, okay, so I took the point of view of a negative, slightly negative character, falls in love with a woman that has no blood anymore because she belongs to an illegal organization called Robin Blood that takes the blood from the rich to give it to the poor, to the people in need, to the hospitals, to the people that need transfusions. Okay, so that's a story about how he will manage to save her in a way. So the plot is quite simple, but what happens in between is a big part of what is happening in Rome. Okay, so it's a big part of our culture. Is a big part of not the touristic, glamorous postcard Rome, but the Rome of the suburbs, the Rome of the people that the struggle, the people that have to make do with the living, and I hope it captures the zeitgeist, right? The spirit of the time that we are living now, in a post glorious time, and post truth time, where things are a bit shady and ambiguous.
You mentioned shady and ambiguous just now. Yes, there is a lot of ambiguity in this novel. We thought with Davide, because this Bloodbusters organization, yes, they take blood as a form of tax for the state, but meanwhile they're also running their own business, producing this like equivalents to cereal bars, but made out of blood components that of course they sell around. So you have this double message, we're serving the state, but also our own interests. And so who goes where to whom? There is a bit of wanted confusion about that, which is probably also linked to Italian culture, maybe.
I mean, old cultures, but I mean, but the reality is complex, and it's not complicated; it's complex.
Complex.
Yes, I mean, you have different powers that shape reality. You have different interests that often conflict, and so that's the reality of things. This was my third. Actually, I don't remember. Yeah, third novel. So I was already, a little bit experienced in how to, move the characters, move the plot, and I think it's at the end of the day, it's okay because the book won Italia Award. It was translated in Chinese. It was translated in English. It was translated in French now. So I hope it will be translated in Spanish soon. I think that's enough. I mean, what do you want more from a story?
No, it's really nice. I think I viewed it like a very action driven novel. You have this character, as you said, Alan, which is, as you described it, a bit of a side guy, a bit rude, a bit, disillusioned about reality. He goes around doing his business for Bloodbusters, but then he meets this girl and, well, this woman, and he starts, thinking about actively why he doing what he is doing, so I mean, we won't spoiler, but you mentioned the translations of this book in Chinese and other languages, and so we wanted to ask how actually it was received outside the Italian borders, and if you had any feedbacks on on how the translators and the editors worked on this novel in their respective languages.
Yeah, the feedbacks are quite good. I mean, in China we had a 10,000 copies edition that was finished, and it was quite good. I'm probably read more in China than in Italy. I hope that in France it will have a nice success. Of course, we need to embrace this journey, but Rome is quite, a scenario that many people know. So it's not like going very far in the travel, adventures. Let's say that many of the translation issues, because as you have experienced, it's quite complicated when it comes to slang and Roman lifestyle. I think it was dealt. I mean, I couldn't possibly read the Chinese, and that's something I had to trust. But the translator worked with me to try to fix at least the major problems, and it's good. I mean, it's the same thing that I do when I publish on Future Fiction, and it's the same thing that I do when I I'm being published in another language. It's beautiful. I think this kind of compromise, this negotiation, is really the beauty. Finding a solution instead of sticking to the problem.
You mentioned the slang. Oh, sorry, you wanted to go on?
Yes, I wanted to say something. There's the main character, Alan. It's very Roman, and the thing with the French adaptation was how we can do that, because Rome is the capital of Italy, but it's not like we cannot like transpose that to the Parisian, because Parisians are not like Romans, so it was kind of difficult. Like Parisians are more, like Romans are more down.
Marseille?
Sorry?
Marseille, maybe?
Yeah, it's more like Marseille, but it's the capital city. And yes, when we think of Paris, we think of something else. So we had to find this way of maintaining the Roman identity, but at the same time to be clear for the French that it's the capital, using this slang which is not used by people living in the capital. Was very, very interesting working on that. I think Donatella agrees as well. It was very difficult as well, and yes. We wanted to maintain the character with the I think that Italian readers can directly see the character is from Rome. I mean, he reads it, and the way he speaks, he acts is Roman.
Yeah.
The thing is, French readers had to feel the same thing, but all the stereotypes don't go with the capital city.
Yeah, I have to say that is the most complicated stuff that I did with language and Roman culture. The other books, even, yes, the Romans has been translated in French, Les Itinérants, but it doesn't have so much as Bloodbusters. And now the book that I just finished, called The Chimeriade, there is Roman slang, but just in particular characters, not in the overall, let's say, narrative voice. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, about this voice, this slang, I was going to say that that was one of the main challenges. So not only render the character, but also the way he speaks, because in Italian, the Italian you use is influenced by the Roman dialect, and also it's very spoken, very oral, and also you use some neologisms, words that you have invented. You play around with expressions, you make puns, and so our question with David, and then also with the editor, was how to make that, to render that in French, so that the reader understands what he is saying, he understands his voice, but still,
fun,
trying
basically.
to have fun and feel, he comes from Italy, but in French. That was the tricky part. He comes from Rome in French.
Let's wait for the feedbacks.
Yeah, we will.
But for the other translators, actually, did you give? Because I remember you told us that the thing that most interested you in the translation of Alan's voice was actually Alan's voice. So to keep this voice that he goes, he speaks, he's like, you talked about flow of consciousness. It's really like he goes out and he starts to speak with his neighbor about what he did. And did you give like similar instructions to your other translators, not only for this novel, but also maybe in general?
Yeah, with Sally, we worked very much and very deeply on that. She loved the book. I mean, she keeps saying that that's the best book that I wrote. I hope not. I hope the next one will be better. But she really liked that book. So I think she put an extra kind of how can I say, skill. She's from Manchester, so probably she could capture some of that. You know, I always remember it's kind of hard. I don't know how it was dealt in French, but I always remember the Italian translation of Trainspotting by Irwin Welsh, which is a nightmare, right? If you remember that Scottish accent, you know, that it's incredible the way that the Italian translator Massimo Bocchiola did on that. And so that's a challenge. I mean, when you have that skill and you have that ability to make available a piece of culture that comes straight from another dimension, I think you are experiencing something beautiful, which is, you know, like reading Camus or reading Céline or reading this stuff, which you cannot read in the original language. So you need a bridge, you need something. Otherwise, the cultural loss of not having, I'm not comparing myself to those guys, okay? But the cultural loss of not having these relevant pieces of art, of literature, of thought in your culture is making us very much poorer.
And did you, as future fiction, as an editor, also publish works that had a similar style to Bloodbusters? So maybe characters speaking with this specific tone. And did you ever publish something like this? Did you have any strategy as well?
I prepared something, because this book, which is called La Seconda Lingua Madre by Argentinian author Flor Canosa, okay, is a very tough, very outspoken story, which of course was translated from Spanish, La Segunda Lengua Materna, into Italian. I hope this book will find other publishers because it's very tough. Yes, Flor Canosa, thank you very much, Romain. And it's a sort of first person talking in a straightforward, and it's a weird, bizarre story. I will not spoil it, but you can probably go out and check it out. Yeah, on future fiction is a bit more difficult, but we try. We're always on a hunt for these sort of stories.
Okay, thank you so much for your answers. Davide, did we have any question that you wanted to ask at this stage, or a question for the public?
Yeah, so there's one question from the public on Anglo-Saxon hegemony. When you started out writing sci-fi, did you ever find yourself thinking in English, even though you were writing in Italian? Especially because of the English influence, because I think the question is not only about the language, but the way we think stories, because we're so flooded by English-speaking material, even in translation. So did you ever find that you had to find another way to tell stories?
It's a good question. It's a very good question, of course. I have to say that even though now I'm a public speaker, I give presentations in English, I have never written a single line of fiction in English. I've always used a translation. I don't feel comfortable in writing in an alien language, even though I like it, I love it. I was, of course, influenced very much by the English writers that I started with, because there was nothing else, right? So that there's no way out. We all grew up with English and American fiction, and I thank many of these authors, of course. But if you then grow up, you realize that if you want to be a writer, you have to be a writer in your native language. Also, in terms of being honest to your culture. I don't mean that we have to set all our stories in our neighborhood, okay? For the first two books, the first book I wrote was set on this planet, but an imaginary world. The second book was set in Moscow, and the third book was set in Rome. So it took me years, maybe 6-7 years, to be bold enough to dare talking about my country, my culture, in my language. But I always wrote in Italian, and that's something I really advise everybody. Maybe I will say something strong, but you know me, okay? So this is not my words, but Chuck Palahniuk said, "It's not by sticking feathers up your ass that you become a chicken." That means that it shows when you're pretending to call your characters John Smith, or set your story in, I don't know, Austin, Texas. If you've never been there, okay, there's Google Map, but it's not enough. So because I've slightly become more and more aware of a beautiful, let's say, phenomenon called psychogeography, which has been developed by thinkers and writers like Ian Sinclair in a beautiful book called London Orbital. The importance of psychology on geography. So the places are talking because of the layers of history and culture and stuff that kind of dripped into that. And so it's very hard to capture that special aura, spirit, okay? So you really need to do a lot of effort, a lot of study, a lot of research in capturing that psychogeographical dimension of the place. Ian MacDonald is one of the authors that I admire the most, and his series of books, Brazil, The Dervish House, The River of Gods, it really made the best science fiction books that are relevant to this idea of psychogeography. So that means that you should write in your own language, to make it short.
Okay. Was there another question from the public?
Well,
I think so.
I can ask if someone has questions. I know that some people asked to write down the names of especially Italian writers.
Yeah.
But I think I can ask you by mail.
Well, somebody, Cronache delle Tre Genti, made a very good job. Thank you very much, because they, or he or she, I don't know, wrote this list of books. So, list of authors. So they're all there, and also Romain did the rest.
I do have a question. If you would suggest a book, not one of yours, but one of future fiction from all around the world to read, and to say that's my favorite book I've edited and published, which one would it be and why?
Well, there are some. Of course, if I publish them, it means that I really liked. One of the first novels that I really loved is a book coming from India, from Bangalore, from Lavanya Lakshminarayan. It's been published in French. It's been published in English. It's called Analogico Virtuale in Italian. And she's a very good author, very good friend. She's a really interesting voice. So keep an eye on her name. I will try to write it down here because it's not easy. It's Lavanya.
Meanwhile, I suggest
right.
follow us to go and see the future fiction catalog
in the wrong place.
if you want to discover.
So yes, I would definitely suggest this book. It's a tapestry of stories interconnected, just like India, and it's a bit dystopia, but there's like a storyline that is connected to the future of the castes in India. So very contemporary issues and very well done, well done.
I also have maybe a question that popped to my mind. I was wondering what, how do you write? What is the writing? Oh, you can't hear me?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
I do hear both of you.
Oops, I don't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me?
Do you hear me? No?
Yes.
Now you
Me
can?
either.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, sorry.
Oh, I don't hear
I don't know
Donatello.
what happened.
Oh, you don't hear
I don't
Donatello.
hear you anymore.
Oh, that's
I don't know what happened.
the public can hear everyone.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
That's very strange.
Well, I don't know, maybe if someone can relay my question in
I can
case he
relate
hears.
the question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how he writes books. What's his writing process? How does he start the story? How does he develop it?
Do you hear me, Francesco? Do you hear me? Oh yeah.
I'll try to leave and come back, okay?
Yes. Yes. Well, sorry for this little problem. It's always the huge problem.
In Italian, we say la magia della diretta, the magic of being live.
Yes. We cannot edit and so we
it.
will. Yes. So yes. Do you hear me?
I don't hear you.
Oh.
I don't know. Oh, okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, now I hear you. Okay. Now it's back.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you also hear me?
Yes. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Technology.
It's very strange. Okay. Well, we're almost there. Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, what is your writing process? How do you write stories? Where do you start? How do you develop them?
Okay. So let's say I start from a very weak signal, some minor idea or weird idea that I then want to test and prove that has some potential of being curious, being interesting. I used to have much more time to write. Now I have a very limited time. So that means I focus on certain period of time where I just sit down all day long and write for maybe 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and try to get out of myself a first draft. And well, I have to say that lately I have been working with AI. I have to say that I wanted to experience that because I'm a science fiction writer, so I cannot discard technology. Okay, but I use 3 AIs as a process of becoming a co-author. So I didn't just said, boom, write this book. Okay, that's not the way. I am not interested in the output. I'm interested in the process. That means that I gave the AI, for example, 5 of my books, and then try to create my digital twin, try to create my digital voice. Okay, I need to explore that because we are under the influence of the devices. Just like before the pandemic, we would have never have this opportunity of having these conferences, right? So if we use technology in a good way, if we are still leading the process, I think we can take advantage of the power of AI. So in general, I work now with a first draft and then with revision of the text 2, 3, 4, let's say around 5 times. But being at the 7th book, I'm more or less understood how things work. The bad news is that even though you've written 7, 8, 9, 10 books, you never know if the last book will be good. So that's the problem of being a writer. You cannot leverage on your past, unless you're Stephen King, maybe. But you always have to, prove that prove that you've been good enough and up to the previous books. Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your answer. Should we wrap it up, Davide? I don't know. Do we have other questions?
We do not have a question from the public, but so I thank you very much for having been here with us today. It was a pleasure, as always, meeting you in Turin at conventions. So for our readers, French readers, know that one of the Francesco novels is already available in bookshops. It's Les Itinérants. And the second one, Bloodbuster, will be out in October this year. So go and check it. If you're interested in Francesco's work as publisher, go on his website and
futurefiction.org. Yes.
.org. You will find all the information on our Instagram page. And you will find a lot of writers from all around the world, also in English sometimes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you will be able to, if you do not speak Italian or the language of the writer, to have an English version. I think, for example, about Arabiglioso that you have in Italian and in yes, that's an amazing one. I also have it. So you can go and discover a whole new world.
Yes, and thank you very much for having me. I will be in France in 3 weeks in Bordeaux for Hypermonde. I will have a small table with some books, and I will have some advanced copies of Bloodbusters in French by PHV publisher in Switzerland. So thank you very much for taking the risk of publishing a crazy Italian writer.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and also on my side, thank you very much again, Davide, for inviting me. Thank you, Francesco, for being here and sharing your insights, and also for letting us translate your book. I mean, also thanks to PVH Edition for arranging this project. It was really, really amazing for me. As I said, it was my first project. After my MA studies, I did translation, I did interpreting. I was in university and I was looking for my first project. And I've always dreamt of being a literary translator. So starting with your book, it was really a challenge.
It was tough.
I learned so much. Thanks to Davide, who was my mentor, and then the reviewing part from the editor's side. I learned so much, and so I'm very grateful for that. Now I will continue on my literary translation journey. Hopefully, I'm looking for projects, and also I'm continuing my studies.
We should talk. We shall
keep in touch. But I'm really eager to continue down this adventure on my literary boat.
Right. Cool. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
I will be back to look at the other panels and programs because they're very interesting. So thank you for putting this together.
Yes. As for our viewers, we will meet next week for 3 panels. We will have 3 licenses with PVH. So
the
you
editor.
are first publisher, Lionel Genare. Then we will have Italian fantasy. So we will move from science fiction to fantasy with Dracones and Lumion. And the third one will be about Iran. And we will have a translator from Future Fiction. So you're really present in this year conferences.
Thank you.
So you will find all the information on our Instagram page and on our websites. If you want to know all the other panels, we still have 9 panels to go. So go and check the rest of them. So thank you very much to everyone.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.